really hope that audiences walk away from this film with an understanding of the true meaning of fairness, of what it means to be fair in this world.
How did a promising young actress go from the face of Disney's modern reimagining to being the center of one of the studio's most expensive failures? Rachel Zegler was once considered one of Hollywood's brightest rising stars. She had the voice, the screen presence, and the charm. After her breakout role in West Side Story, she was on top of the world. Then Disney handed her the keys to one of their most iconic roles, Snow White. It was supposed to be a celebration, a rebirth of a classic fairy tale through a modern, inclusive lens. But what followed was anything but magical. Instead of applause, Zegler found herself in the eye of a storm. From the moment she was cast, controversy followed. Her own interviews criticizing the original film sparked outrage. Tensions with co-star Gal Gadot exploded into public view. But the real shock came later, when rumors surfaced that Rachel Zegler, in the aftermath of the film's disastrous reception, was allegedly begging industry insiders and Disney executives for financial help. The whispers were brutal. Some claimed she was struggling to secure new roles. Others alleged she was making desperate appeals for funding, even reaching out to private financiers to keep future projects alive. Whether exaggerated or not, the damage to her reputation was already done. From behind-the-scenes feuds and canceled press events to rumors of financial desperation and career collapse, this is the story of how a dream role became a public relations nightmare, and why Rachel Zegler now finds herself fighting to rebuild both her image and her career. Let's break down exactly what went wrong. Disney announcing Rachel Zegler as Snow White should have been a win. She was young, Latina, talented, and had already earned critical acclaim for her role in West Side Story. The casting decision, at first, was celebrated as a move toward inclusivity and modern storytelling. Disney wanted to evolve the narrative, make Snow White more independent, more powerful, and more relevant to today's audiences. But the backlash was immediate. Social media erupted with polarizing reactions. Many questioned why Disney was remaking a beloved classic at all, while others zeroed in on Zegler's past comments. It turned out that Zegler had previously criticized the 1937 Snow White, calling it outdated, weird, and problematic. She mocked the idea of a love story with a guy who stalks her, and dismissed the entire premise as anti-feminist. For fans who grew up loving the original, these comments felt like a slap in the face. How could someone so openly critical of the source material be trusted to bring it to life with sincerity? The narrative began to change. Instead of being seen as a bold casting decision, Zegler's selection became a lightning rod for criticism. People weren't just skeptical, they were angry. And Disney, perhaps realizing too late, had already doubled down. The tension didn't stay online. It followed Zegler onto the set. Insiders began leaking stories of unease during production. Co-star Gal Gadot, known for her poised, commanding presence as Wonder Woman, reportedly clashed with Zegler from the start. What began as subtle discomfort grew into visible discontent. Sources described icy interactions, disagreements over how scenes should be portrayed, and creative conflicts over tone. Zegler, according to some, saw the film as a platform for delivering a strong moral message. Gadot and others simply wanted to make a magical, visually stunning film that would entertain audiences. That ideological gap led to friction. Multiple accounts from the production hinted at shoot delays, retakes, and even full reshoots of emotionally intense scenes. There were whispers of Zegler storming off set, and moments where filming had to pause because the leads refused to be on screen together. What should have been a smooth production turned into a slow-moving disaster. Each day brought new challenges, and Disney's top brass began to worry. By the time the first trailers and interviews dropped, things had already started to unravel publicly. Zegler's press appearances only made matters worse. Rather than calming the backlash, her interviews added fuel to the fire. She doubled down on her criticisms of the original Snow White, stating repeatedly that the 1937 film was outdated and didn't reflect modern values. She questioned the relevance of having a love interest, and again mocked the prince character as someone who just shows up and saves her. This wasn't a one-time comment. It became a theme across her promotional interviews, and it rubbed a lot of fans and even neutral observers the wrong way. Longtime Disney loyalists were turned off. They didn't see this as a bold new vision. They saw it as someone actively disrespecting the legacy of a character that had been cherished for generations. Her words, meant to sound empowering, came across as condescending. The backlash wasn't just from fans. Industry voices began to weigh in. Commentators accused Disney of losing sight of their core audience. Instead of celebrating the essence of the story, they seemed more interested in rewriting it for political points. And Rachel Zegler became the lightning rod for all of it. The feud between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, once only suspected by fans and industry insiders, soon became impossible to ignore. Reports emerged that Zegler had deliberately skipped a major event meant to honor Gadot's humanitarian work. The ceremony had been planned as a joint appearance to squash feud rumors and show unity between the stars. Disney reportedly begged Zegler to attend, even offering to tone down the political messaging of the event. Still, she didn't show. Zegler later cited discomfort with the event's political affiliations, but her absence only reinforced the perception of deep division between the co-stars. The media picked up on it immediately. Headlines questioned whether the two leads could even stand to be in the same room, let alone act alongside each other. Behind the scenes, Disney was furious. The studio had hoped that their chemistry, both on screen and in real life, would be a major selling point. But instead, Zegler's refusal to participate in shared appearances became a glaring red flag. And it only got worse. At other promotional events, the stars were scheduled for solo interviews. Even those were scaled back, with Disney fearing that any unscripted remark could reignite controversy. Just when the situation seemed to stabilize, a new wave of rumors crashed down. Tabloids began reporting that Rachel Zegler was experiencing financial difficulties. Some claimed she was reaching out to private financiers and Disney insiders in search of funding for future projects. Others went even further, alleging she was begging for money after Snow White's catastrophic reception. While no credible sources confirmed the details, the rumors stuck. Zegler's image as a rising star was now replaced with that of someone struggling to stay afloat in an unforgiving industry. It was a harsh fall from grace. Producers who once saw her as a fresh face were now hesitant. Industry insiders questioned whether she was worth the risk. Her outspoken comments, combined with poor box office performance and backstage drama, had made her a controversial figure. And in Hollywood, controversy can cost you everything. 6. Disney's damage control. Disney tried everything to regain control. They quietly ordered reshoots. Entire scenes were restructured to minimize the interaction between Zegler and Gadot. Visual effects teams were tasked with stitching together emotional arcs from separate takes because the actresses no longer filmed together. Promotional material was overhauled. The early focus on progressive themes was dialed back, replaced with trailers that leaned heavily into nostalgic imagery. Disney's goal was clear: shift attention away from the controversy and back to the film. But it didn't work. Social media continued to dig into every leak, every rumor, every awkward red carpet interaction. Zegler's absence from key events kept drawing attention, and the more Disney tried to hide the tension, the more obvious it became. The story had stopped being about Snow White. It was now about the feud, the fallout, and the failure. 7 box office bomb. Then came opening weekend. The numbers were brutal. Snow White underperformed massively, even by conservative estimates. Disney had poured millions into the project between the cast, the effects, the marketing, and the reshoots. And it all came crashing down. Critics were unimpressed. Viewers panned the film online, calling it joyless, preachy, and awkward. Memes flooded social media. Some joked it should have been called Woke White instead. Disney's worst fear had come true. Not only had the film failed to connect with audiences, but it had also become the punchline of a much bigger conversation about Hollywood's direction. And Zegler, once the face of the future, was now the symbol of its missteps. In the aftermath, the industry moved fast. Producers and studios began quietly backing away. Zegler's name was no longer attached to high-profile projects. She was seen as difficult, unpredictable, and divisive. Meanwhile, Gal Gadot weathered the storm. Despite her own share of controversies, she had a built-in fan base and years of box office success. Her image remained mostly intact. For Zegler, the damage was long-term. Some said she was a victim of the culture war, used as a pawn in a bigger battle over what stories should look like today. Others saw her as someone who squandered a golden opportunity with arrogance and tone-deaf messaging. Either way, her future was uncertain. What started as a bold reimagining of a timeless story ended up as a cautionary tale. Disney thought they were evolving. Instead, they found themselves entangled in the very culture clashes they tried to avoid. Zegler thought she was making a statement, but it came at the cost of alienating the fans she needed most. Now, Snow White sits as one of Disney's most infamous misfires, not because of bad visuals, not even because of bad acting, but because of everything else: the infighting, the backlash, the rumors, and the missed opportunities. And as the dust settles, one question remains: can Rachel Zegler come back from this? Only time will tell. But in Hollywood, second chances are rare, and fairy tales don't always have happy endings.